An uncanny humanoid steak named Charlie is presented to the new cook who needs to tenderize him and prepare him to be cooked and served. However, the methods that the cook uses terrifies the people, inflicting a lot of pain to the steak, making the kitchen staff question the sanity of the new cook. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator, and it's good to be back on the camera and to see you again. It's been a while, so how have you been? Hope you've been doing alright and things have been working out for you. Anyway, we've got a steak to cook, so let's dive right in. Charlie the Steak was a lost media originally developed for iPhone iOS, which came out in 2013, but was eventually pulled out of the App Store and was gone for good. That's until very recently it was revived and uploaded on different sites. I managed to get a PC Mac OS port on GamerSault, which has some dropped frame issues and the audio isn't synced with the video, at least on Mac OS. The game in its essence is about tenderizing and cooking a steak, which has a human face on it, making the game very uncanny. In other descriptions, the game is described as torturing the steak, which means unnecessary actions are going to be taken on the steak, far from tenderizing it. The game starts with a non-talking yet verbal, conscious and sentient steak dropping on the chopping board. The steak is known as Charlie and seems to be chipper and happy, not knowing what is to follow and what the purpose of steaks are in this cruel world. Using the cursor and tapping on Charlie, he can be poked and punched, who turns out to have an abnormally large tongue and a weird habit of spitting on the screen. It's not clear why Charlie likes to spit on the screen, if he has any bad blood or hostility towards the players, but at least he doesn't visibly show it by facial expressions. It seems he just does it because he is a non-speaking, underdeveloped character, unable to tell between normal social etiquettes as he smiles right after doing it. Using the option Level Switcher, there are 4 different levels the protagonist can interact with Charlie. The current level is well done, described as being a mild level, a level where the grandma would be even more aggressive than the player. These levels progressively get worse, going to medium, rare, and then raw, where the aggression increases. In this level, there are 4 tools available to prepare the steak for cooking. The first tool is a meat tenderizer hammer, which can be used to tenderize Charlie to be cooked more thoroughly. This causes some pain to Charlie, but not severely to wipe off his smile for long. But regardless, his discomfort is visibly and audibly noticed. The next tool is a kitchen knife, which can be used to cut Charlie into 3 smaller pieces. Next up is a torch, which is used to quickly go over Charlie and burn the very top layer. Finally, hot sauce is used to season the steak, which causes Charlie bad eye burn. If you thought this is bad enough, the next level step up the methods of preparing the steak on a much worse scale. To unlock these levels, the players or the cooks need to collect cookies through playing a minigame. In the minigame, we get a quick loading animation which involves the cook drinking to prepare. A very strange loading screen, showing the instability of the cook. In here, he needs to throw knives at moving steaks, all having human faces, causing them to die, causing the smiles to wipe away instantly. The number of cookies needing to be collected to unlock the next levels is a little ludicrous, needing hundreds of thousands. But luckily, the game provides the option of cheating, accessing these levels instantly. Moving to the next level, medium, which all have cooking terms. The description reads that the things are getting more interesting and that the player knows how to cook. This level unlocks 2 new tools, with the previous ones being used more aggressively. The tenderizing hammer is used more aggressively here, with much more force, causing Charlie to shout in pain. The knife is also used more aggressively, as if the cook has some anger issues. taking it on Charlie. The torch in here is doubled in number and Charlie. Black pepper is also used, which makes Charlie have irritated eyes and sneeze. Finally, Charlie, who seems to be in his own world, sticks his tongue out to ridicule the cook when the player uses pliers, pulling Charlie's tongue in an uncomfortable manner. Moving on to the next level, Rare. It's described as the player being a tough cook and what his capabilities are. All these descriptions seem to insinuate something completely different, but it's not until the final level when we understand what the story is all about. In this level, Charlie is already in a bad state, having black eyes and being dazed. His smile is completely wiped off and he seems to be dehydrated and exhausted. He doesn't even seem to know where he is anymore. The chopping board is stained with steak blood and badly scratched, with the new tools being more unnecessary for cooking. The first tool is a literal dynamite, which the cook uses to stick in Charlie's mouth, causing him to snap out of his dazed state, being terrified and panic when he explodes to nothingness. The other tool is a rolling pin, which is used to beat Charlie and roll him down. 2 kitchen knives are then used to cut Charlie into smaller pieces, and the plier here pulls Charlie's tongue even more, twisting it and pulling on it, causing Charlie to moan and scream in excruciating pain. Just as the pain seemed to stop, the cook pulls out a tooth drill, a completely unnecessary tool for cooking, something bizarre to even be there for preparing a steak, which the cook uses to destroy Charlie's teeth with, drilling into them. Poor Charlie at this point is in severe pain and cannot pull himself together, who is visibly bruised and injured, being deprived of sleep, having red eyes. That's when Charlie spits saliva at the screen, showing his dismay and dislike towards the player. That is when the cook decides to go to the highest level, labeled raw, describing the player as someone who is insane, unfit to be a cook for defiling the steak. This level shows Charlie being in an extremely poor state, being neglected, deprived of food, water and sleep, having severe injuries and bruises, even with his teeth broken. Charlie seems to be terrified and in pain, not knowing what worse could happen to him. He seems to be crying, not wanting to be here anymore, as the cook does indeed seem to be insane, with the organization or the kitchen even calling the player insane and not someone fit to be a cook. That doesn't stop the protagonist, as he has a new set of tools for Charlie. The cook pulls out a hammer drill and proceeds to break Charlie's teeth, or what remains of them. Poor Charlie seems like he cannot take the pain any longer. The cook then proceeds to use the fork to injure Charlie in a brutal manner. It doesn't stop there, as he uses a pan to hit Charlie with. This time around, he brings a blowtorch, charring Charlie and burning him into a shrunken little piece of meat. The knife this time is not used to dice and chop, but to stab. And finally, the pliers this time pull the tongue out. And on this note, the levels come to an end, with Charlie's fate untold, but based on what we saw, it would be far from pleasant. From what we saw and what was implied, it seems the player was not in fact a cook, but instead a torture specialist recruited to pull out information from a prisoner or victim. Charlie had a human face and seems to be dazed and not fully conscious of where he is. Maybe that's a suggestion that he was injected with a truth serum, which has the effects of causing the target to feel drowsy, and how Charlie seemed dazed and out of this world. Charlie even spat on the cook or the torture specialist while smiling, depicting his slowed mental processes, showing dislike towards the specialist, yet unable to hold his drowsiness and effects of the drug injected. There were several tools that had no place in a kitchen for preparing food as well. There was poison, which should be far from any kitchen not to contaminate the food. There was a power hammer drill tool, a tooth drill, and dynamites. The tools and techniques used by the specialist all seem to be beyond any techniques an actual cook would use for preparing food. They were so bad that they caused Charlie to be terrified, and he progressively started looking worse, with bruises and injuries appearing. If not convinced yet that this was an underground interrogation, Looking at the description of different levels, we can see how in the beginning the organizers are passing judgment on the abilities on the specialist, pushing him to be less friendly and more aggressive. As the specialist starts to show his abilities, the organizers explain how things are getting more interesting and eventually admitting the specialist knows what he's doing. Then finally, at the final level, the specialist shows extreme aggression and sadistic characteristics when it's too far even for the organizers, who comment that the specialist is insane and that he cannot be a cook, or in other words, an interrogation specialist, as his techniques are questionable. What are your thoughts about the game? I know it's a silly minigame and it all might sound a little far-fetched, but this is a theory channel, and a horror one at that, and I have an imagination that is dark. So anyway, it's been your host Star, and thanks for being here. I truly hope that you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, have a fantastic day.